squares that are coming out, and then those black circle lines coming out, radiating out of my body, those were all different particle effects. And I just put on a bunch of particle effects for that picture to get the feel of power emanating, and it worked out perfectly. And on that, I probably had my max particle slider up pretty high because I wanted lots and lots of particles to give me that effect. Okay, I'll take my particles back off. And then if particles if you're somewhere where they're doing particles and it's making your computer laggy, you can go to that slider and turn it all the way down, and it will just de-render them for you. Not the draw distance, but underneath the draw distance, there's max particles. Avatar physics. How jiggly do you want to be? LOD factor. Level of detail. LOD, I used to not know what the heck that is, but that has to do with mesh and builders, and the way a mesh object is built. I don't know a lot about it, but if they do it well, it will not have a very high LOD factor. In other words, the mesh objects will show up. But if you're ever in a room sometimes and the mesh objects are not rendering, and they're looking like either a little triangle or a little blob or something, you can turn your LOD factor up, and that makes the mesh objects render better. Also, if you're showing a further draw distance, so you have more objects loading, you can turn your LOD factor up because mesh objects also have to do with distance. The closer you get to it, the better it renders. So if you want stuff in the back to render and it's not rendering, you can turn that up to 4. I think default is on 2. Most stuff works on that, but and I noticed that now that mesh has been out for a while and the creators have really learned how to work with it. It's not that much of an issue. Some of the older stuff, you have to turn it up to get it to render. Max avatars, that's just how many avatars it will render if you're in a crowd scene. I keep it pretty low to keep lag down. Tags offset, I think that's just how far away your little tags are from your head. Also, you have a quick on and off for your name tags, look at target, and color under cursor. So again, these quick prefs are just some of the things that are most used, and you don't have to go into your preferences menu and open that whole thing and find everything. It's just putting it all right here in your quick prefs menu for you to get to. Hover height is there also, which hover height I use a lot. I always keep my hover height open, actually, especially when posing. Bandwidth, that's a computer thing. If you're laggy, lower your bandwidth. Max complexity, I keep that high up to the right, no limit, but that's because I hang out in the Elven Forest and other fantasy places where the avatars are pretty sweet and done up, and I need to put it up to see them. You also have your use region win light button there, and I rarely use the region win light set at the region I'm in. I always use my own win lights, unless it's been built by an artist and they have a particular light that they built it in. You have your win light sky, win light water, day cycle, and your slider. So your win light sky button is great. That is where you're going, and this will be used in your photo tools menu too, but it's also right here. And there's a drop down menu, and there's going to be a lot of different win lights in there. So win lights can really set the mood of your picture. For example, if you go to Tour Sunset Bruhata Charme, I will paste that into your chat here. that's going to give you a really warm orangey light. And I love to use this one for, I've been using it a lot lately because I've been taking my autumn pictures. So I love this wind light for autumn pictures. And that, if you put that in, that's just a quick visual. Now, actually, I have my advanced light turned on. Let me turn my advanced lighting off and see if it still does the same. You know what it is? I know what it is. My presets menu up at the top, I have so many locations in my favorites up there that sometimes I accidentally hit the other button. Another one of my favorites is Tour Garrigal Moschalus, Garr. It's Tour Sunset Garrigal Moschalus 1 and 2. And those are sort of also warm, but they give you a little more depth, a little more shadow and light. And then Holy Romance, Tour Sunset Holy Romance, has a nice sunset feel. But there are so many different wind lights. All I can tell you is just play with them. This is why it takes me an hour to do a shot, because I have to look through 20 million wind lights to see which one I want. I really like some of the nighttime ones. Tour Night and